Okay, we'll celebrate with you all week.
All right, thank you.
All right. Good news.
School starts Wednesday.
School.
We already had it.
You're late.
Good news.
You're late.
They just said after you came in.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
No. So excited.
Now this part, okay, so I do not use Facebook. I don't like it. I mean, I don't like a whole bunch of stuff about it. Now there are some things about it I think are positive. People, families and friends and stuff like that use it for, some, well, probably some good things. Anyway, but we have a Facebook page, and Ashley takes care of that, but recently I have been told that there is a certain science to it, not just to Facebook, but to other social media, that there's a certain science to it, that if you tailor certain things, you will reach the people you want to reach.
Call it an algorithm.
So yes, I know, yes, but so anyway, on Monday we're going to put because here's the thing, I don't think I mean I have plenty of vanity, but I don't think it's vanity to say that there are people within our service area who might want to hear what is happening here. And I'm thinking that they don't know it yet, right? So this is the good news. We're going to put the science of social media into a different gear. See what happens. Tomorrow we have the meeting, so we see. The music is so good. Last week we had music 3 nights. Every night every night the music was great. Every night. And some people I hadn't heard of before and some I had. All of them world-class musicians who play anyway, it was really a great week. I'm just saying it was kind of expensive by the end of the week. And and again, it goes back to the other point. There actually weren't enough people here to pay for the whole business. And I'm not upset about that. It's just a fact. And of course what we're hoping for is more people come, and that issue will take care of itself. But it's just a joy for me to share the music. So it was very nice. And I wrote a little poem about the piano that I'll share later. Oh, we had a guy up here. I mean, he came up here. He says, "Can I prepare the piano?" And I had seen before on some CDs where it would list the instrument prepared piano. I don't I thought it was like a prepared piano was just a certain way, but it turns out that every piano player who prepares the piano does it in a different way. And I didn't realize what it meant, but he took this piece off. And then he took a cymbal from the drummer and laid on the strings, and then he had a mallet up here, and he put some other things in the piano that I didn't see until later when I came up and looked at it. It turned out he put his car keys up there, and then he's playing the piano, and what a masterful pianist. And then occasionally he would go to his preparation on the strings and got some amazing sounds out of it.
Wow.
It was very good. Very good.
Was a good deal.
So, prayer list.
I got a friend, Michelle.
Okay. All right. So if God invited you to a party, if God invited you to a party and said, everyone in the ballroom tonight will be my special guest, how would you then treat them when you arrived? Indeed, indeed. And Hafiz knows there is no one in this world who is not upon his jeweled dance floor. Okay, let's get quiet with this meditation.
Can we turn off the music when you do a meditation?
Would you?
Yeah, I would really prefer, or lower it a little bit. I have
Okay.
trouble hearing you sometimes.
Okay, all right. Just turn it down. So just relax right where you're at. Relax, release, and let go. Focusing on the breath. Just noticing how it works. No need to change it in any way. Just notice. Just notice that on the in-breath, you are filled. And on the out-breath, just naturally relax. Breathing in, you are filled with love. And breathing out, you relax into life. Say to yourself, I am forgiving. I am forgiving. And this forgiveness is not just saying, oh, that's okay. I'm going to let it go. This forgiveness is radical forgiveness. This forgiveness recognizes that what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. This forgiveness, so deep, so full of love, does not pardon sins and make them real. It sees that in reality, there is no sin. And in that view are all our sins forgiven. And what is it anyway? This sin we see, except a false idea about our brothers and sisters. Forgiveness merely sees its falsity and therefore lets it go. What then is free to take its place is now the will of God. An unforgiving thought is one which makes a judgment that it will not raise to doubt, although it is not true. The mind is closed and will not be released. The thought protects projection, tightening its chains so the distortions are more veiled and and more obscure, less easily accessible to doubt, and further kept from reason. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is still and quietly does nothing. It offends no aspect of reality, nor seeks to twist it to appearances it likes. It merely looks and waits and judges not. She who would not forgive must judge, for she must justify her failure to forgive. But she who would forgive herself must learn to welcome truth exactly as it is. So going forward today, do nothing then, and let forgiveness show you what to do through Him who is your guide. And we say amen and amen. I guess I gotta start wearing long pants. I don't know. But I looked at the video last week and I said, you know, it's unseemly. For somebody who's first looking at it, they might get the wrong, I don't know. I'd say. Anyway, I've taken it under consideration. So this radical forgiveness, it's a choice. This is such a weird kind of state of mind that we find ourselves in when we're fearful. This state of mind in which every bit of evidence that is presented looks like it's saying danger is present. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get cheated. I'm going something. I mean, just look at the world. Something bad is bound to happen. And then from that defensive stand, there's nothing we can do but be offensive. And it's so, and I would say, considering this idea, I would say, well, I'm not that. I mean, I'm not like aggressive, and I'm, and then I think, it's not just about like sticking out your chest and pushing your way through the world in some physical way. It's what's going on in the mind. It's what's, I've got this battlefield in the mind that's continually falling into conflict because I've got bad judgment. And when I say bad judgment, I mean the judgment of the ego. The ego is always judging either myself or others as less than, and it does it in very blatant ways, but it also does it in very subtle ways where it's not even like noticed. And so I was thinking about this in regards to what the fourth tradition in the recovery programs talks about, is this idea of being autonomous, being self-governing, having the ability to make our own choices. The idea of being able to do whatever is ours to do, to be whatever is ours to be, as long as what we do does not have a negative impact on others. And so this seems like a very simple idea, but why is it that I think when I examine my own behavior, that I think it's okay for me to do things and think things and say things that if I observe someone else doing or saying, or they shared with me that they thought, that I would judge them negatively. I have some kind of justification system in me that says, well, there's extenuating circumstances, and this is why I had to do that thing. And of course, this is erroneous thinking. That I just need to watch. I just need to watch and see. Realize that what's going on every day, through my choices, through this ability to be, to say, to do, through this ability, I am shaping my own reality. Every day, through my thoughts, I'm shaping my experience. Belief, thought, feeling, action, and inaction become affect. Yeah, in both ways. It affects the world that I see, and it also becomes some kind of a charade, some kind of a masquerade going through the world, projecting an image that I think is attractive or intimidating or whatever affect I'm looking for in that particular moment. But as we involve ourselves, as I involve myself in the world for good or ill, what I do becomes cause. Cause and effect is in operation. So then what I do becomes cause of an effect, which then can become cause for someone else to do something that then becomes an effect on someone else. So these things cascade. It's like dominoes falling. So our decisions change things. What we decide to do, it changes things. And so listen, there's plenty that our mind will go to and give us as reason to feel guilty. There's all sort of reasons that, I didn't do as well as I could here. I shouldn't have said that. These ruminations that we have, we've got all sorts of reasons to feel guilty, and that is not positive nor productive. To notice, yes, to recognize, to take responsibility, that's one thing. But just to feel guilty, this is not helpful. So our decisions change things. We've got the ability to move forward, backward, and so I say, I definitely have the ability. When I wrote this, I said, well, wait, that doesn't sound right. I don't think I've got the ability to move back. I mean, physically, I guess I can move backwards, but I can't move backwards in time. But it turns out that the mind can be a time machine. We've talked about this before. I can move forward in life, and then if I've made a mistake, I can actually move backward, and I don't mean sitting around being full of regret and resentment. I mean through forgiveness, the forgiveness that was in the meditation. I can move backward in my mind and see the situation as it was before I thought the offense occurred. And why I say thought, because I'm always misinterpreting. So I go back in my mind to the place where I was before the offense occurred and change my mind. See it differently. See it differently. I look at was my offense if I did something. Then I need to help the person I did it to go back in their mind to the place that they were in before the offense occurred. And I can't do this through manipulation. I can only do this through taking responsibility and saying, I was wrong. What can I do to fix it? If it was someone else that I'm taking offense at, or if someone else has done something that I think they shouldn't have done, I have to forget it. I have to go back in my mind to the place before they did it. And this is how I move backwards. And as soon as I go back in my mind to the place before they did it, always realizing that anything negative that I'm doing or someone else is doing is generated out of this fear. this fear, this separation. So on all of this, and we say it, and every time that we talk about this, I say it again, this does not mean that I say that bad behavior is okay. I just want to realize where it came from. I just don't need to hold a grudge. Anyway, many times our actions have upset others. We've caused distress to loved ones and generally shaken up our immediate environment. So, but we're in a practice. We're in a practice of trying to become mindful about where we're at and what we're doing in each and every moment. And so being mindful, we notice, and there are many times when we've caught ourselves, we've made a bad decision, and we're right there. We're right at that moment where we made the bad decision. We could stop right then and admit it and fix it right then. But many times we go right on past that, whether it's the beginning of an argument or whether it's the beginning of some course of action. There's some strange thing that it seems like once we've made a commitment to a certain path, we just like stay on that path until the bitter end. I think it's got something to do with the admission of being wrong. Right? I'm gonna fight my way through this and make this work out. Living mindfully, we begin to take great care in all that we do. It's about this concern we really, if we can get past that surface level where the ego is considering only what's good for it, we really do have concern for others. And we show that concern by not making decisions that cause harm physically and emotionally. If we find ourselves in the midst of behavior that's causing this concern, we can immediately change course. We have the ability to, this is the whole thing about being free, about being autonomous, being self-governing. We have the ability right then to stop and modify our direction. We know that we have an effect on others. And so we can decide to make this effect a good one. I was noticing one of the things, I think one of the most important things that we have a choice over is what we say. Because this just starts all sorts, and the Buddhists have a precept about practicing skillful speech. And really it's like this I will practice the training method of not lying, right? So but it broadens itself out. It's not just about lying, not telling the truth. It broadens itself out to this idea that before I say something, could I reflect and ask myself, first, is it true? Second, is it kind? Third, is it necessary? Right? And it's just, it doesn't take that long, but it just seems as if sometimes those words just want to spill out of our mouth so fast. They almost seem to take on a life of their own. But this is an excuse. We really can rein them in. We really can be careful and considerate about the words that come out of our mouth. I was noticing, this may not seem, I'll just tell you the story. I've been noticing that I've been groaning and moaning and making all sorts of strange noises when I have to move around. And I'm thinking, man, I asked myself, are you that old? What is going on here? And I realized that what had happened was when I go to, I go to the Y every day and I work out, and I feel great. I feel great in the midst of the workout. I get home, I feel good. But as soon as, when I sit down, I stiffen up. I'm just, this just happens, right? So I stiffen up. And then when I have to get up again, it seems to be a little bit of a struggle, let's say. And I started giving voice to that. I started making a noise, like when I get up, oh! And then I noticed at racquetball, when I was sitting down at the end and taking my racquetball shoes off and putting my regular shoes on, that I was always making this noise when I took my shoes off. Like my feet were really hurting. Now listen, this is important because sometimes when I get up, there's actually some pain, right? So when it started, I would get up and make these noises because I actually had some pain. And when I really started paying attention, I realized that I was making the noise when I didn't have any pain. So it had become a habit that standing up means make a noise. Some days when I changed my shoes at racquetball, my feet really hurt because it was a pounding kind of a session, right? Some days they don't hurt at all, but I still make the same noise when I take my shoes off. It's almost like it's almost like theater. And so I asked myself the question, why this? So this is another application that's become apparent to me about skillful speech and about the decision that I make before I open my mouth to utter whatever weird sound is going to come out. So I made a decision. So we're talking about this. I made a decision. I'm not doing that anymore. And I made a decision that I'm not doing it whether it hurts or whether it doesn't. Now this is very interesting. I've been watching and paying attention, and it's not hard. It is not hard to not make the noise. It is not difficult to not make the noise, right? And then I started thinking, this may sound silly, but I started thinking about it and I said, this is just another way of complaining. This calling out to hoping someone notices my distress and maybe they'll comfort me or something, right? It's another way to like call for attention of some kind. So paying attention to what I'm actually doing, I've been able to, over the past week, to stop. So consciously, I'm stopping it consciously. Couple of times it's happened, but I notice right away. So I know I'm on the right path to change that habit. Now this may seem like just a small thing, but to me it is indicative of a mindset that says I need to let my complaints be known to the general public or whoever happens to be around at the moment, right? And so I remember we used to have this rule. We would there's this group of guys that I would go mountain biking with, and fast guys. And some days, you're just not up to it. Because they're going to ride fast. And I mean, it would switch around. Sometimes it would be, I would feel like I wasn't quite up to it, and some days other guys would feel like they weren't quite up to it. And just because we knew the pace was going to be bad, there was this tendency to try to kind of salt the thing at the beginning and say, oh, I didn't get very much sleep last night. Oh God, I really rode hard yesterday. My legs are really tight. I don't know. Or the biggest one would be to say, I've got a family thing, so I might have to split off from you guys. So all these kind of excuses set in front because listen, it's very competitive, right? I don't know why it's competitive. We're out there to have fun, but it's competitive. And so you try to set the stage already with these embedded excuses to make yourself not look as bad as if the whole thing falls apart. Now the first thing about this is, as soon as I've got it in my mind that there might be a problem, there's a problem. And that it automatically starts causing the very things I was afraid were going to happen just because I put it in my own brain. So we made a rule. We made this rule. And the rule was no complaining on the ride. No complaining. No excuses. And no quitting. No quitting. So when you come on the ride, you do these things. And I realized then, and we talk about it, in the few quiet moments that there might be on this ride, we would talk about this and some other things, but that this was really a lesson for life. And really it is a reflection of this whole idea of autonomy and being self-governing. Is if we set ourselves with an attitude where we begin whatever task it is that's at hand, with no complaint. Just think about how many times we have to do something that we really don't want to do. And so what do? We voice our complaint. We voice, even if we don't actually say it out loud, we show our attitude. All of a sudden, you know, we're going to this, perhaps we go into this passive-aggressive mode, perhaps, or we just, you know, sulk a little bit because we don't want to do this, and we're hoping that someone else will see that we don't want to do it, and they will like say, "Oh, okay, forget it, I'll do it," or we'll get Andrew to do it, or so to just stop right at the beginning and say, I'm not going to complain about this. We can make a decision. This is what Stephen Covey's wife used to say. If there's a greater yes burning within, it's easy to say no. And so if something comes up that really isn't in our responsibility, if something happens and we're called on to do something that we see really isn't in alignment with our purpose, or that's not as important as something else that's before us, then instead of complaining and going and doing it in some kind of, you know, shall I say half-butted way, instead of doing that, why wouldn't we just say no? You know, I can't. I have these. There's these other things that I really have to do that I think are more important. So no complaining. Just either do it or don't do it, but stop complaining about it, right? And then no excuses. So these excuses just seem to spill when things, we start making excuses before anything even goes wrong sometimes. So, but just to stop and consider, you know what, I'm not going to make an excuse. Now, if things actually do go wrong, someone may call upon me to give them a reason why it went wrong. First, it should be important to note here that if no one calls upon me to give a reason why it went wrong, I don't need to give a reason. I don't need to just offer to volunteer a reason. But if somebody does ask, let me try to be quiet for a second and then give them a reason that actually is true and has some character to it, where I'm not just trying to avoid my responsibilities by making an excuse of somebody else's fault, circumstances and events. This, I take my own. In other words, instead of giving an excuse, let me take my own part. And that does not mean that I shoulder someone else's burden. That just means I take my own part. What in this situation, if something actually did go wrong, what was my mistake? And just say it. Just, oh, it's so freeing. Just say it. And it's over in a second. It's all over. And you know, people understand that when we're open and honest. And then, you know, listen, life is an endeavor. Life is an endeavor. There is stuff to do. We need to bring energy to this life if we expect to actually live a fulfilled life. We can't just be lackadaisical. We can't just be, and then, you know, if it gets too hard, oh man, I'm done. I'm finished. We got this guy at the Y who, his name is Jorge. We call him Georgie. And he's a young kid, and he weighs about twice as much as he should. He's really, really big. And he comes, and he's there almost every day, and this has been for a few months. And he, when he started out, you'd see him doing something. Then lately, I've been noticing that he's sitting with earphones in at a table and not doing much. Listen, my heart goes out to him because I know this is tough. The situation he is in right now, being that big, this is not easy. So I have all the compassion. I mean, look, I'm just saying, right now, I've gained a few pounds again. It's starting to go off now, but I remember being 265 pounds. And this guy's like 400 pounds, right? So he's definitely over 350, all right? So anyway, I know what it felt like to be 265 and how difficult it was. I would keep thinking that it was never gonna come off, right? And so, but I talk to him now. If there's 5 people there and we're playing doubles, only 4 people can play during that game. So I'll go out and do a set in the weight room, and if Georgie is sitting at the table, I get him to go with me. And I keep talking to him about not quitting. Don't give up on this. You just got to keep moving. Here's the idea behind this. The idea is this. There was this thing that said, change your life for the better in 30 days. And the first thing on there says, do something to break a sweat. But then right after that it says, repeat every day for the rest of your life. So not just 30 days for that part, right? So I bring Georgie with me when I go in the weight room, right? And if I come out and I'm leaving and I see him, he's still sitting there at the table, I will show, because I will be, if I really had a good game, I will be drenched. And I say, Georgie, look at this. Come on. And I point at his head, right? Because he hasn't got a bit of sweat on him. So here's the idea. Even when things look like, oh, and now I have hope because he keeps showing up, right? And I don't know that he's ever going to be, look, the kid's never going to be slim, I don't think. I don't think there's any way for that to happen. But he can have a really great, so anyway, the point is, don't quit. Don't quit. And it's easy for us to quit doing things if we don't do it perfect. If we think we don't do it perfect. Any kind of a program we get on, any kind of, if it's an eating plan, or if it's an exercise plan, or if it's an education plan, when we slip and we fall short, it is so easy to say, oh, now I've screwed it up. That's it. It's messed up, now I might as well just go eat the whole pizza. It's so easy to fall into this. So let's not quit. Let's not quit. Because look, just falling back a little bit, that doesn't mean you fell back all the way. We need to go forward. We may need to use this ability to make decisions to move forward in our lives. Always remembering that the most important thing is to be helpful in the things that we are doing to those around us, knowing that that's where the true fulfillment comes from. But any personal endeavor that we have taken on for ourselves, no excuses, no complaining, no quitting. That's enough.